Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Scott Clark.
And I'm Dave Dale. It's been a hell of a couple weeks.
Oh my gosh, it's been so busy. First of all, how are you? You had COVID?
Yeah.
And you can still hear it.
Yeah, I'm better and I'm not viral, but I feel still incapacitated a bit.
It went through this office, and not only just the office, it went through the office, and then everybody that had spouses and children, they all got it as well. It was nasty. I guess Ben and I are the only two that, we live a good life. We're very healthy. Hey, Benny, no COVID, zero. It's you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I will say though, coming back from PDAC, the Prospectors and Developers Conference, the largest mining convention show in the world, that there was lots of people that's renowned for getting people sick, and I think COVID went through. There's a bunch of people that came back and got sick.
Well, that was the first super spreader event of the pandemic.
That's right. Someone got it and then went to Sudbury, and I was at that event, and at that time, if you remember in the early days of COVID, they discouraged mask use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, but they encouraged keeping your hands clean. I actually wore rubber gloves at it.
Oh, no kidding.
And it's silly. It's like, because at the time following the rules, but we're talking face to face with everybody and we learn.
What was really interesting, I remember it very clearly because Al McDonald, as mayor, was there and he came back. And then he spoke at one of the last public events at the Davidi Club's honoring of the merit or honoring dinner.
Right.
And then the very almost next day, or very shortly after, Ontario shut down. So there was 3 different events that weekend, and I went because I was watching the news really closely. So I was at the Davidi Club, and I remember Dr. Chirico making a joke about it. At the podium, he said, I have to mention the pandemic and make sure everybody washes their hands so I can expense this tonight.
Okay. He made a joke about it, yeah?
Yeah, and I was watching it really closely, and I went to 2 other events that weekend. The 406 Wings St. Patrick's Day.
Right. I saw that picture in the newsletter.
Yeah, I put it in there because I saved that. And
is that what you were look like? Because everything looked really fuzzy and blurry. Was that, or was that clear to you when you took the picture?
That's how I took it. It was a lighting effect. And before that, I went to Bob Wood's 80th birthday. And it was at the Grand Event Center. And I know that we were all very nervous about it because we all knew that there was stuff circulating and it was about to shut down. John Lecklittner was there, and it was like very close gathering. Nobody's wearing masks. We all know there's stuff going around. And then we have an 80 older person.
Yeah. And he wasn't the oldest person in the room either.
No. There was everybody's there.
Wow.
So I think we dodged a big bullet that time, but very,
How will history judge Dr. Chirico for his COVID reaction? Because you could say he was he had some of the more stringent rules in this region for COVID protocols. How will he be judged?
There are some factions that will judge him harshly because there's some hypocrisy thought of with him closing down the snowmobile trails, but not the cross-country trails. Right?
Yeah.
He had the heaviest thing. Like, he was going to be responsible for deaths if he didn't make some decisions, right? He had to shut down the ski hill. They weren't sure, it was going to be a spreading thing. It was very big. I think it was the beginning of the troubles for the ski hill because they were just getting back on their feet and had a good plan, right? And they just invested a bunch of money. And that was, I think they got reimbursed a little bit, but I can imagine what that board had to go through with that because that was a big killer, right? As far as economics go. I don't think he'll be judged as harshly as the Sudbury public health doctor who charged overtime for all of her work. And
what?
She was made the news. She had billed extra.
They're salaried employees.
Yeah, and huge salaries too.
Yeah,
but
they're not making minimum wage.
she billed extra, when I remember, right? And I don't think he did. And so I'm sure he had the best of intentions. I disagreed with some of his decisions.
Yeah.
I disagreed with the city's closing of the toboggan hills and stuff like that. I was about 2 weeks ahead on a lot of people because I was looking at the European news, not the North American news. And so I was tapped into that. And, the people in the know were saying, be outside, get fresh air, get vitamin D, don't lock yourself in.
Right.
And we were behind that.
But where my pushback in that would be, and it ties into something I wanted to chat with you about, was my pushback would be, was it the Lancelot? Is it called the Lancelot skyline? Remember wasn't there like, it went through there all of a sudden and there was people locked down, but people actually died. Yeah. Wasn't there deaths, more than one, wasn't it? I can't remember.
There was a couple, I think.
Yeah. And so I could imagine what's on, Dr. Chirico's like plate when it gets real. We can sit here and say, we should be outside, and hindsight's 2020, right? But in the crux, in the fog of war, he leaned towards, making sure that lives are saved. What is the long-term effect of that? Like, I personally had a tough time, I'm such a social person. When that was cut off, I'm still dealing with some of that. And what I wanted to tie into is, some of the discussions, like the Stu campaign interview that we had here. It's funny, when we started this, I was so excited to have like someone come in like Stu, who's doing some investigative journalism with Bay Today and some of the things that are going on. But when you're in the thick of it, when Stu was in here, I have so much more respect for you guys. And that's hard for me to say to you. It's when you're in the thick of it and you're saying things that are, or talk about topics that truly affect people, and potentially it's information that is well researched, and you guys do your work, but you could get someone, not that they'd be angry at you, you could get sued, you could actually affect someone's life. I watched both you and Stu. It's not flippant when you both sit down and start talking about these serious issues. And I just want to say from my side, talking about the Dr. Chirico thing, when you're actually in it and there's real stuff on the line, it's actually kind of scary. It's like you're going to be much more cautious. How you've done this for 30 years. Is this why you look so old, grizzly, and worn out? All these things that you have to try and sleep at night with some of the stories that you do and things that you investigate?
I'm sure it wears on me sometimes. But that's what you sign up for. And you try to be careful so that you have a balanced sort of approach to things. And I think over time, you try to do things with good intention. And that's the best you could really do. You got to. There were times when I was writing some columns that I was, really pushing some buttons, some envelopes. I thought, I was making some enemies, right? And I wasn't worried about legalities. I was worried about people showing up at my door, and people have, right?
Really, over an article, someone showed up at your door.
Yeah.
And they were not happy, I'm assuming, that when they showed up at your door.
Yeah.
Okay, that feels like all of a sudden there's a boundary that's crossed, right? And it's like that gets scary real quick.
Worse, I was worried about impacts to my kid. His job prospects, ability to do what he wanted to do. That was more of, I'd say, stressful than anything. I wasn't that worried physically about myself. I'm prepared for that. Like I can fight, and I don't mind going down that way.
Yeah.
Right. But I was more worried about him.
For sure. Did your son ever get bullied in school over things that you did and wrote?
Well, he was like a big kid and very tough and athletic. There wasn't too many people bullying him.
Right.
In fact, he probably at some points
been the bully?
Well, Maybe.
I never saw Dylan that way, but
No, and I don't think he is that way.
Yeah.
He's very good-hearted, actually.
Yeah.
And he was
even
raised,
though he's an MMA fighter, we should.
he was actually raised to stick up for people that were being bullied.
Yeah.
Right, as far as I was concerned.
You're
But
like that. That's your trait. I see that all day long. You will, behind the scenes, Dave always fights for the little guy. Always.
I think it's what people should do, right? When I was growing up, though, I was bullied. And then I tried being the bully. And that didn't fit for me. What fit for me was sticking up for others. Mostly. Sometimes I like a good fight. I like a good fight too. Like I'm feisty, right?
Oh, you're feisty for sure.
And but yeah. Anyways, it's with our conversation.
You're not flippant. I've seen it. You're not flippant going into something serious. We might joke about certain things, but when it's serious, like when Stu was in here talking about the stories that he's working on, I'm going, okay, this is real. This is serious stuff you guys are talking about. And I can feel the tension is like, okay, don't say anything wrong. Or it feels a little bit scary, like you're on a tightrope.
Yeah, and it should be. Because it's very serious stuff, right? And like you don't want to call people, like the thing is in journalism training, when we've been trained by editors and you go through it, you learn really the power of words, right? And the legality of words. You can't call somebody a known criminal if they haven't been convicted of a crime legally, right? A lot of people throw that word around. They throw around words like corrupt. They throw around words like, anyways, there's words that'll get you sued because they should get you sued because it's not right to do that to somebody. Like there's lots of stuff on Facebook and a few others that people just think they have the freedom of expression.
Yeah.
But there's responsibility in how you use your words, right?
Yeah.
Now, you can push the envelope on it and make things interesting and you can get your point across by choices in words. So that's where you're really serious about your decisions on what to say and how to say it.
I did an interview with Patty Starr.
Okay.
Does that do anything for you, Patty Starr? She was the woman that brought the Peterson government down. And it was tied to, I'm trying to remember, that it was tied to Ontario Place. There was something tied to Ontario Place. And then she wrote a book about it.
I remember it vaguely.
Yeah, but it was what brought the Peterson government down, and that's when the NDPs came in, right? That was when they wiped out the House, and it was all these NDP MPPs that had no political experience. They just took over the House. It was like, oh my gosh. But I'll never forget in that interview, she came to North Bay to promote her book, and I did an interview with her on the radio, and after the interview, I'll never forget this moment. She said, don't forget the power that you have. And people, broadcasters and journalists have a responsibility to hold power accountable. And it doesn't mean you have to hold people to task every day and those sort of things, but there is a role for that. And she was adamant about it. It changed. There was a lot of allegations about corruption within the government and all these different things. And she brought that entire government down over her, what she alleged. Because I'm trying to remember how it all played out in the end. But it was really palpable when she talked to me about, that how important the role that we have, people behind microphones, behind a pen, behind the camera. And I think it goes back to why we're doing this when, small markets have been decimated and there's great journalists doing good work. And how do we supplement that? How do we make the Echo Network and Echo Essentials be part of the dialogue within a community? So we have Dave Mendicino coming in, and we want to talk to him about the 100th anniversary and the $915,000. Where did that come from?
Well, it came out of the stabilization. I can't even say it again. It came out of the reserves that are put into to keep the taxes low.
Right. But we get into Invest North Bay too, right? We talk about that. And the check was right to Invest North Bay. And
well, some comparables there on how money's allocated and how it's spent and how it's important to follow that trail and be accountable for how they spend the money. But before we get into that, I just want to make a correction in our interview with Dave. I did a plug for Nestor Prisco's book. And It's about Crown Attorney Arthur George Browning, North Bay's first
Look
Crown
at that
Attorney.
mustache. That's a beauty mustache.
That's a beauty mustache, yeah.
Look at that.
I call him the first magistrate. So we might not correct it in the video interview just because it's a little hard to do that. And we don't like to make too many edits. But great book. You can get it at the North Bay Museum.
Is there lots of pictures in it? I need pictures.
There's a great photo of here, the 1925, when the city became a city. And this is what's going to be celebrated next year. So it's a very timely book.
Nestor,
You
I
can
need
get it
more
at the
pictures.
museum. Hey?
Nestor, I need more pictures in my books. And if there's a coloring section, utopia for me.
And one real other plug before we get into our interview with Dave. I was just talking to a new fan of the podcast, Pierre at BD Printing.
Yes.
And he
we love
says
BD.
we're doing the right thing by talking to politicians, asking them hard questions. He wants more local coverage of what's going on here. That's why, and he is the last guy that would be signing up for something like that we're doing, but he likes what we're doing because we're doing local stuff.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
I love that feedback. Love it.
So right on. We'll enter into our 100th interview with Dave Mendicino. No, it's our 100th interview too. Today we have former North Bay Councillor Dave Mendicino. And
I voted for him. I voted for him. How did you not get in?
Hey,
You're still...
I sometimes I still do think about that, to be honest with you, but the people spoke. That's
The people
all.
spoke.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
didn't.
You
vote
got to
for-
respect that.
I didn't vote for him, but I certainly took your ad money.
That's right. You
It's
did
terrible.
take my ad money.
I did so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't vote because I didn't think it was quite fair that I was even though I was a non-resident, but I was renting an office there. I could have voted if I wanted. I had the pin to vote, but I just thought I'd
How did you arrange to vote if you're not a citizen of?
I was renting an office, and you can do that. All you have to do is rent an office.
Oh, I thought you had to own property.
No, you don't have to own property.
No,
You can,
of course you don't.
Yeah,
Of course
you can be a non-resident voter if you rent or own.
Of course, yeah. Lots of people rent, of
and
course.
you didn't vote.
No, I didn't.
So
Sorry
that
to
was
say.
one vote I
That
lost.
was one.
Well,
How many more did you need?
Enough.
And
obviously.
a couple, right?
Yeah. Actually, you look at that election, all sitting councillors lost votes. Like, right?
Yeah, Derek Sjogren didn't get reelected either.
Who?
Derek Sjogren.
Re-elected? He wasn't elected.
Wasn't he? I
He
thought
was
on.
elected in 2014,
Yeah.
but when he ran in 2018, he didn't get in.
oh, so that was his second run that he didn't get in?
So that was his third run.
Third run.
In 22, that was his third run.
Huh.
He wasn't on the last council, right?
I guess not.
No.
Sorry, Derek, for even bringing up your name.
Without a doubt, though, the electorate wanted change. It was like sweeping change, right? That went through council.
Which is, if you're sitting there as a sitting councillor, you're going, obviously I never take anything for granted as far as getting reelected, but I thought the last council did a lot of good things. And some of this...
Okay, hold it a second. Let's just stop this. I don't want to hear about that. What I want to do is you derail it right from the start. In my introduction, we're here to talk about the 100th birthday party.
Yes, the
Yes.
100th
Let's get
anniversary
on track.
celebration.
Let's get on
the
track
centennial
here.
celebration.
Yeah. And we're not editing any of this. This is what I have to deal with.
Well, Dave's keeping us on track.
How do you put up with this guy all the time?
I don't know. I don't know why he's here, how he got here. He has an office. I have no idea.
I know where one of the bodies is buried.
But let's talk about the 100th anniversary. I agree. So because there's lots to talk about. First of all, what's your position on it in the committee?
Well, I was when they put out a call for volunteers to sit on the committee. I thought about it long and hard. My initial reaction was not to. I just wanted to step away from everything at that point in time. But the more and more I started thinking about it, my family first came here. My grandfather landed here in North Bay in 1927. So, and my uncle was here before that. So there's a lot of family history. And the more and more I thought about it, there's a lot to celebrate. 100 years, certainly not just for my family, but just for North Bay, what's happened and, how we've evolved and the different things that have happened, different groups that are in the city that have contributed over the years. And at the end of the day, I just decided, I wanted to get involved in that. And so I am sitting on the committee and looking forward to the next, year, almost 2 years.
So everything happens in 2025?
Everything happens in 2025. Obviously, there's going to have to be a lot of planning starting now. We are waiting for council to approve the $915,000 budget up to limit that's been proposed. Once they do that in April, it sounds like it has general support. The committee can really get down to planning and once they know what they have to work with.
There's been a little discussion about how that number came about. When I first heard was that the committee recommended that's how much money we need to do it. But as I've spent a little more time talking to you, that's not how that came about. How did the budget number come about?
So the committees have met a couple times, and we've talked in general terms because we were told right off the hop, council has to approve the centennial budget. They did not tell us what it was because
you said they, you mean city staff?
City staff.
Okay.
And I agree with them. I mean, I've been on the other side. It's not fair to discuss a number in a public forum without council having looked at it and whether approved it or not. I mean, you're putting them, in my opinion, in a bad position by not giving them first crack at it, sort of thing, and letting them dissect it, letting them discuss it, debate it if they want. But certainly, it's until council approves it, the committee didn't know what kind of budget they had to work with.
So, and I apologize when I ask this in advance because you know the inside and I don't. So my assumption's always been that this number of years ago, the city wrote a blank check to Invest North Bay for $1 million. Go do with it whatever you need to do with it. And is this a similar type thing where city staff said, here's the number, go at it? Or is it broken up specifically that 100,000 is going to go to this and 100,000 is going to go to that? And how is it? And maybe dispel the rumors if that blank check didn't happen in Invest North Bay.
So first off, with Invest North Bay, it wasn't a blank check. It was council approved $1 million at the time for to strike an advertising contract to promote North Bay. There was so that was done before I got back on council, actually.
Oh, okay. That happened before you were on council.
It was approved in September of 2018. The new council came on in November of 2018. I was on that. I was sitting on Invest North Bay, and the contract was in force. But as we've come to realize after a number of months, the committee decided that the contract was going to be terminated. There's an out clause for either party, right? And we exercised that exit clause. I'll just leave it at that as far as, why and all that stuff. But
is there still a lawsuit pending over that?
Sorry?
Was there still a lawsuit pending over that?
I don't know. You'd have to ask some of the current council members on that.
Okay.
I know that it's
I'll write that down there.
There's still an Invest North Bay committee.
Yeah.
And I know it's still...
There is?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, when wrap it up until the lawsuits are over.
Okay. When I left, it was winding down. That's all.
Yeah, I thought that was your role. I had forgotten that you weren't on council at that time. You came back on, and then you got the last part of it. And you were wrapping that up, but I didn't realize that it still continued. But I guess it continues on paper, maybe, or do they have meetings, regular meetings?
Well, my understanding is they would have meetings. I think there was even a small amount in the budget that was being allocated to Invest North Bay in 2024. So I don't know what that's for. Obviously, I've been out of it for 15, 16 months now. But so, I mean, as far as that goes, it wasn't, in my opinion, a blank check. It was, and as far as the $915,000 towards the Centennial Committee, it's an upward limit of $915,000. You don't have to spend it, but we can spend up to that.
Is it broken down into
well,
buckets?
I don't know if it's specifically broken down, but it is broken down in a sense that the Event Hosting Fund, which is an ongoing annual fund that the city operates every year. I believe the budget is annual budget is $100,000, and if various committees like the downtown, what's the concert that they do? It escapes me now.
The Block Party.
The Block Party.
Yeah.
Events like the Block Party can apply to the Event Hosting Fund for money annually. So with part of this $915,000, I think the wish of council will be to allocate some of those funds to boost up the Event Hosting Fund. So these groups like the Block Party can maybe give it
make it even bigger and better.
Bigger and better. Groups like
I did see a bit of a breakdown where it was $250,000 for this year that could be used to grease the wheels for what you need to get done, and then another the $500,000 allocated. Some of it coming from the tax stabilization.
Stabilization.
Thank you very much. That fund, right? So it is broke down for this year and the next year.
Yeah, so it is a two-year fund for 2024, 2025. Obviously, some expenses are going to be incurred in 2025. There's a coordinator, I believe, that's being hired. I think she's already been hired.
Okay, that would come out of that funding.
That would come out of that budget. Bolstering the event hosting fund. Bolstering annual events like Canada Day, like Armed Forces Day. I'm really hoping, considering the history with the Armed Forces, and I believe they're celebrating their 100th.
Yeah,
RCAF. Yeah.
Like, you'll probably be seeing more money towards that to give it an extra, push. Santa Claus Parade, Families First, all these annual events that could see, a bolster of funds to put on a bigger and better event. Legacy projects will also be part of that $915,000.
Like what?
Public art, Engine 503, which has been sitting, at the waterfront for years. That would be Engine 503 is a great example of our rail history. A lot of my family members, when they initially came here, they worked with CP Rail. They came here because of the jobs that were in the railway business.
So what would they do with it? So I'm just assuming that they would paint it, fix it up. Then what?
It would just be a display.
And so would they actually lift it and move it somewhere?
I believe,
Well, there's a current committee going around talking to municipalities about wanting to get it back on the rail and using it eventually.
Well, that could be as well. When I was, we had some discussions about it last term of council, and it was basically, it's not cheap to restore it, but it would be restored so that it would form part of the attractions in the waterfront. The other thing that the city is going to be looking for in the committee is funding from other levels of government. The fact that council will hopefully approve this number, $915,000, we'll be able to leverage that with the feds and the province for other funding as it becomes available.
So I saw in the news that the city has invited the King and Queen here.
Yeah, I saw that. The mayor sent out a letter to King Charles.
Peter knows everybody. He knows everybody.
Has that been discussed?
Yeah, I believe that.
Dave, has that been discussed at all? Does anybody know how much it actually costs to host a visit?
Again, that certainly wasn't discussed with the last council, so this is something that the new council has come up with, and if they can pull it off, that'd be great. I don't know. I don't know what the King's schedule is like in 2025.
I remember when the Queen came here, the Queen and Prince Philip. It was like they basically went to Canadore and trying to think where else they went. They probably went to City Hall. I'm trying to remember. I saw them on McEwen. Remember we had to pull over and the Queen went by. But it'd be interesting. I doubt that's going to happen, right? Like, well, he's battling cancer right now, and we wish him well. But it would be really interesting to have a dignitary like that. But it's probably a bit of a long shot.
I would shoot for Kate and bring them over because they're going to be the next king and queen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing with that is you'd probably get a doctored photo op.
Wow.
We could have a contest to take a photo and Photoshop it.
And put North Bay or bust. Is Kate holding it?
Well, I want to see the photos of Kate here in North Bay, doctored in, right? Maybe we'll do that. It'll be a sort of a virtual.
We're
visit.
sure Kate. That's Kate. Yeah.
The latest one, I don't know if you saw the latest one. I saw a photo. Now they're saying there was a photo, one of the last photo ops of the Queen with her grandchildren.
Was doctored, yes. We'll get back to Dave in just a couple of minutes. And again, let's press on the gas pedal a little bit more with Davey. He's getting his hands are shaking and stuff. Now let's really lean into him.
Yeah, okay.
Let's find out the controversy. Hey, when was the last time you listened to Backroads Bill?
Scott, you pay me to listen to it every week.
Good. It's working then. I've always enjoyed, I first started listening to Backroads Bill on CBC with his stories. He would usually on a Friday, he would come out with some different stories. I love, we reached out to him in the early days and say, hey, have you ever done a podcast? He says, no, but I would love to do one. He comes in every week and his stories, and I do want to say, because Ben's in the studio here, Ben is fantastic. Not only just as the producer, but also when he kibitzes with Bill. But Bill, I think, is a teacher at heart, a storyteller. So he works really well with Ben and storytelling. And I love the places he takes us. And I hope people take the time and have it. Give Bill a chance and listen to his stories.
What I like about Bill, he's one of the great adventurers. His every day is an adventure to him, and he's very dedicated and he's very pragmatic in his approaches. What I like about the kibitzing and stuff with Ben is that they're talking about adventures and canoeing, and I don't even know if he's ever been in any of these places. And I want to see Ben with a canoe in a river. I think we're going to record that.
I grew up with a cottage. I canoed and stuff when I grew up.
Yeah.
So I've been.
How long has it been though? Because I listened and you said you haven't done anything that for 10 years or something like that.
I've been outside, guys.
I'm busy doing stuff with you guys.
Well, no,
I don't have time.
That's no excuse. That's no excuse. You're almost 30.
Yeah, I am almost 30. Thanks for the.
Well, let me tell you, life is going to go really quick. If you don't get into canoe and start doing some adventuring and get back to your childhood, you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff, Ben.
Well, we just did the plasma cars for OKP, and I'm
not going in your canoe after you watch him in plasma cars.
Yeah, that was fun.
You broke a child's toy.
Well, it was faulty. It was. The wheel broke off.
Oh my!
While I was driving it.
Yeah, because you were on it, wrecking it.
Anyways, really cool though. Last week though, just really quick plug, or yesterday, sorry, when the episode came out, we talked to two guys, Dana Starkel and so Dana and Don, his father paddled all the way from Winnipeg down to Brazil. It was about 20,000 kilometers over 2 years. His brother Jeff was there for half of it, and then he decided he wanted to go back to school. So really, really cool conversation. We also had Chris Ford, who created a documentary about it on. So those two guys came on and we talked. I think the episode's actually over an hour long. It's a really long episode because we probably could have went for 2 or 3 hours. It was just so good. Great
storyteller. So this is our sort of moment to say, hey, lean in, get a chance, listen to Backroads Bill and some of the incredible adventures that he shares and places that you could actually go here in Northern Ontario. It's super exciting.
I want you to order Ben to be involved with the North Bay Mattawa Canoe Race, June 8th. I want Ben.
Could we?
Yes.
No.
I want to record it. Yes.
I've done it once. I've done it. Old man Clarky here.
I've been in a car with you before. I don't know if I want to be in a canoe with you.
Wait a second. I never said I was going in the canoe with you.
Oh, wait. Who's going in the canoe?
You're by yourself in a kayak, man.
I'm going to supply the canoe, all the resources you need. I'll get everything you need.
We'll see. We'll talk.
Oh,
I might have
let's
to
get
charge
Billy.
you overtime for that.
Whatever. I want to see you do it, and I'll be.
We're gonna mic you up.
Oh, that'd
right.
be great.
Oh, God.
We'll put a little GoPro on his head.
We'll have to get the explicit button going.
Right on.
Check out Backroads Bill, and let's get back to Dave Mendicino. We've left him too long. Dave, who would you like to see, like, of people from the past? Maybe it's certain family members. I don't know. Maybe someone from the Davidi Club, or like, who would be really interesting to come back here and be part of this celebration?
You know what? There's a couple of social media groups that a lot of ex-North Bayites follow. And in general terms, I would love to see people that used to live here. I see their posts. I remember, when there's a picture posted of downtown or something. And I love when I see an ex-North Bayite say, hey, I lived there in the 70s and 80s, and I remember going to this store and that store. And those are the people that we want to see come back and really help us celebrate 100th. And that's where the tourism aspect comes in. And, if we could get a lot of these people coming back, they're going to spend a number of days here, and they're going to...
What they used to call that? Old home week.
Yeah.
Was it
Homecoming week.
Homecoming week. Yeah. It used to be a big thing.
So there's going to be, that's part of the planning as well, I believe. There's various committees being set up. Each committee will have their chair, and one of the committees is a homecoming week or homecoming committee. In my opinion, it should be a whole week celebration leading up to a weekend where, I think it's the first weekend in August is when the official date is when we became, officially a city. I don't know if that's the date they're gonna use, but I'd love to see a week where we're jam packed with things going on, and someone coming that used to live here comes.
I bought one of the old programs from the homecoming week off a guy, 1947, I think it was, and they really did make a big deal out of it. Right, it was pretty good. You'll see that in the spring edition of the Back in the Bay magazine.
Interesting.
Little plug there.
Little plug there.
There's a lot of great stuff. Like there could be a sailing regatta. There could be all kinds of things that would happen. Should be a good birthday party.
Is there any effort, and I'm sure there is, but I'll ask a question about Steve Herman. And for those who don't know Steve Herman, he's like one of the biggest people in the music industry in the world. I think he lives in Los Angeles, right? And his dad owned Ben's Supermarket, downtown North Bay. Steve Herman used to sweep the aisles, and that's where he grew up. Like, this is his home. This is where his family's from. It would be awesome to have some sort of linkage there, because he probably has access to any act in the world. Is Taylor Swift coming is what I'm asking.
You know what? To talk about Steve Herman, just a quick memory that when you mentioned Ben's Supermarket. So my dad used to have a hairstyling shop in the same block where Ben's Supermarket used to be. So I remember going as a kid. On Saturdays, I used to have to sweep the floor on all the hair because the barbers were too busy. And after that, my dad would give me, I don't know what it was, $1 or something, and I'd go to Ben's Supermarket and
Get a
spend
candy
it
and
yeah. And that was a fixture in the downtown for many, many years. So with Steve, he's obviously a North Bay boy, and as part of that homecoming week, if something could be arranged where he'd be on board, $915,000. Plus, sponsorship, ticket revenue, all that stuff. There's no reason why we couldn't bring in a big act, and I'd love to see that. I would love to see that.
I got two here. One is for the what's going to be happening on the May 25th. Your brother's involved. He was just here for an interview. Jerry's going to be putting together the show. It's going to be at the Davidi Club, May 25th, for the 90th birthday of the Dion Quints.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that's just coming up in a month. And there's
I think
another
that's actually a
anniversary.
great venue for it. That'll be good.
Yeah,
Have a great
yeah.
meal from the Davidi Club. Then you get to see the show.
The first two were at the Art Center, and
Yeah.
they were well received. It's hard to fill that place up, but there's a lot of people still interested in that, and that's pretty impressive that he has that show for the 90th. Yeah.
I'm really so. This was his own. He has spent so much. His blood, sweat, and tears are in this thing. He came up with this idea. He researched it. He went out and paid money for writers to write it. And I really hope one day that someone realizes what we have here, and maybe this could end up being a touring show. I don't know.
He had a great idea when I was talking to him about it, because he wants to bring in, for the next time he does the big show, young actors, children, to play the parts of the Dion Quince, right?
We've actually had discussions. They were here over the weekend, and we had discussions on whether Dreamcoat could be involved in that
Exactly.
concept.
The other plug was really interesting. 1925, when the city received its official status, Nestor Prisco just wrote a book about the city's first attorney and magistrate, right? And he has a photo in that book of the whole old boys, the home old boys, big row of them, beautiful picture. As well as
with all the citizens there,
with all the dignitaries,
right?
It's all men, right? It's not all the citizens. There's that great shot of everybody in the park.
Yeah, I wonder if we could redo that again.
Yeah,
that would be really,
recreate it.
Recreate that
with
kind
the
of
dome
thing.
in the background. Is the dome still there? Yeah, the dome in the background.
Dome, yeah, I think the dome is
still there.
That would be something. That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, men mark it down.
Got a good idea. Finally.
Yeah, and he actually, Nestor launched the book at the museum, and they have it for sale as a fundraiser for the museum. So I just wanted to plug that. All right. So that is the 100th. It was the first year of the city, being a city.
And for a number of years after the first one, every year they'd have a homecoming week party. Yeah. And there was apparently lots of shenanigans that went on.
Can I ask a little bit
years.
of a history question? Because I arrived here in 91. You guys were here before that, of course. I always had heard stories, and I don't think I ever attended one or it was done by the time I got here, was there used to be, was it the ACT around Thanksgiving? They would have like an Oktoberfest or something. They called it Homecoming Weekend or something, where Memorial Gardens, they'd have a big beer fest. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Traveling Association?
I know what you're talking about, because I attended some in back in the day, and it was now that you say it, it was around Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah,
and it was just it was Oktoberfest at the Gardens.
but everybody came back. It seemed at that time.
It was part again trying to get people to come back, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We've done this stuff before.
Along that vein, with your committee, are they talking about just 1 week of celebration, or are they going to stagger it out?
So the whole year's is designated for celebration. The homecoming week will have its own week, but with local groups, local community groups. This is part of the $915,000 through the event hosting fund. If say the Davidi Club wants to put something on in May of 2025, because that's when they celebrate their anniversary,
And Le Carnaval, right?
or Le Carnaval, it certainly we're hoping that every month for 12 months in 2025 there's events going on. That's to me would be. And it culminates in the big weekends in the summer. Maybe not culminate is the right word, but that would be the big event. But we'd certainly like to see, and we're encouraging local groups to step forward. And as long as it has a centennial theme, if we could spread out all these events throughout the year, that would be awesome.
Co-chairs of the committee, or honorary chairs, Colin Vesna and Garth Goodhue?
Garth
Yes,
Goodhue?
honorary chairs, yes.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, lots of experience there. Lots.
They do. They were there for the first anniversary, and maybe I shouldn't say that.
You had to, though. Eh?
I had
You
to. I can't help it. I love both of them dearly. It just a quick thing. So Garth has his whole background was education. Education, I could say politics too, right? He's been heavily involved in politics over the years. But Colin he has like a really interesting background. He was the publisher of the Nugget.
No, he
was?
wasn't actually. His biography includes being a veteran. He after the World War. I think his brother may have passed away in fighting of the war, but he was managing editor of the Nugget.
So can you tell me what the difference between the two is? I learn more and more about journalism. What's the difference between a managing editor and editor?
Well, when I was a reporter, I answered to the city editor, who had a news editor, and the managing editor was above them, and I've been called into those offices. And when I really screwed up, I got called upstairs to the publisher's office.
Okay.
So the managing editor had to face the publisher when they had something to say. And then the shit trickled down.
Okay.
Geez, now they have one editor and two reporters.
Or half an editor, right?
Like-
Didn't you say it's a part-time editor?
Well,
how that's changed.
I think their actual official editor doesn't live here. There's a guy, there's a person elsewhere, and then they have two reporters, and then an LJI Rocco is so 2.5.
So was Colin? So Colin, that was his career, though. That was his vocation. He was in the newspaper business. That's what he retired doing.
Well, but he was also, before that, he had corporate work. I think it was Chrysler, maybe, where he was in corporate public relations as well.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And
I didn't know that.
And when I walked, okay, here's a quick story, and Colin's heard this one before. When I came to North Bay in '86 to take the print journalism course, Canadore, first thing I did before I even started the courses, I walked into the Nugget and I asked for a job. I wanted a summer job working there at the Nugget, and he was the managing editor at the time. Before I know it, well, he told me to go get educated first. Then he was a teacher. He was teaching public relations at the college as well, right? And I'm not sure how long he was the managing editor. It was a big position. He had a lot of, like at that time they had 35 people in the newsroom, something like that.
Wow. Now how times change.
Well, time changed, but just for a moment, we won't go down this path, but is there less news now? Like you needed 35 people. It's like, is there less? So we don't need as many people? Well,
they had a circulation that supported that, and the advertising that supported that. Like they had a lot of more work that went into each thing because you didn't have the technology, right? So you'd have have a reporter preparing a story, then you have a copy editor fixing it. You're doing it on typewriters, right? So one person, the next person, and then you'd have a big composing staff just to get all that prepared to put it on the press, right? Yeah, you would need all that because you fact-checked and you had a series of editors that looked at things before they got published.
So I think you could do it with less people, but I think there's more of an appetite than ever of people wanting more information, right? Hence why we're doing this.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So, Dave, my one request to you is, and first of all, thanks for volunteering for doing this. Thank you to the number of people that have stepped forward as well. I hope, because it doesn't matter how you're going to slice and dice this, it'll get political at different times, where money goes. I hope you can help people that are new to the committee and this sort of thing, to help them and guide them through this, because I remember I stepped into the Heritage Festival role with John Strang because Doug Herbrand took absolutely horrendous beating publicly when he was the chair. And he got that at council and in public. And that was before all the social media we have today. So I hope you can sort of guide people through that it's just, there's a few people that are going to have strong opinions, but we're doing the right thing as we keep moving forward.
Tell us about some of the people on the committee too.
Yeah.
Some of the people on the
Who's on the committee? It's a huge committee.
You're going to really put me on the spot because I know
yeah, that's what I do.
Thanks for that. I mean, I can tell you that there's a lot of different organizations being represented,
and a lot of subcommittees too, right?
But it's good. You have education, arts, like it's
all
DIA,
covered. And,
it's all there.
Yeah, and we've only had 1 or 2 meetings, so I mean, the names, I'm terrible with names, to be honest with you. But
just getting to know everybody.
There's a lot of familiar faces around that table.
I think we'll add something into the description of the video to at least give people a little bit more understanding of all the other people involved. Yeah.
How are you going to protect these people, though? Some of the junior people that are coming in with rose-colored glasses, and this is going to be fun.
Well, you know what? We mentioned earlier Invest North Bay, and one of the things that I really was lamented back in the last term was when the controversy started with social media these days. There's a lot of comments that started to be directed at the volunteer board members that were private business people.
And they left, didn't they? They're like, I'm out.
Well, I mean,
why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Exactly. So to me, you're right. This one's no different. I mean, these people are volunteering, and let's face it, the $915,000 has already become political. It didn't take long. But to me, there's communication is what it's all about, getting the word out. And at the end of the day, we have to account for that $915,000. And, where did it go? And, in my mind, I have no doubt that at the end of the day, it's by the time 2025 ends, the city of North Bay will have thrown a real kick-ass party. Can I say that?
I believe so.
I'm really hoping that everyone, I don't think you're ever going to please everybody, but overall, I think we're going to show good bang for our buck, and we're going to be able to show all the events that happened, and the entertainment that was brought here. Account for the $915,000. Stay ahead of the message. Create the mess. Don't, if you can, don't allow someone else to create the narrative for you. That would be my advice to the committee members.
Yeah, it's good that you're on the committee because when you step in the goo, you got to face it, and then you survive it too. Like you've been through a bunch of things where you were front and center and the focus of things, but here you are. You're still rolling. And you still have an appetite for community service.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's, I love North Bay, and, I still volunteer.
Well, nobody else would take it, really.
I know. But it's, you're right. I mean, I've been through it. I mean, I've been sat on Summer in the Park. I mean, I was there for the Doug Herbrand years. Some of these volunteers, they've never experienced it before. So, there's, and I'm not the only one. There's a number of people around that table that have had experience with the media and social media. And hopefully we can impart some of that information to the new ones. And we're going to get criticized. There's no doubt about it. But I'm hoping council approves this $915,000. I think there's general support for it. And then once they do that, we can really start getting off the ground and providing more information and how people can access the funds through the event hosting. Some of the, whether it goes to Santa Claus Parade or Armed Forces Day or Families First. Funds will be going there. We'll be able to, tell everyone, what's being spent there. As long as there's a full accounting of the money, along with sponsorship money, along ticket revenue, along with funding from other levels of government, I think that's the best we can do.
And if someone has an idea, let's say I have an idea, and I was like, I would love to do this for North Bay, some big idea. Can I come to the committee and say, hey?
There'll definitely be a mechanism there. We will be providing a mechanism for all community groups if they're interested in putting on an event with a centennial theme. There'll be a mechanism for them to step forward and through the event hosting fund apply for funds that will help them, even if they've applied before and they've been approved before. If the event hosting fund gets boosted, which I hope it will, they'll be able to apply for more funds and put on, like as we said earlier, a bigger event with a centennial theme to it. And if we can string, 10, 12, whatever number of those throughout the year, along with the homecoming week homecoming celebration, I think we're going to do ourselves proud.
To wrap it up, and we've talked about this before, and you talk about social media. What's changed now since those days a little bit is that Facebook has kicked off quite a few of the mainstream media, so you don't have that really to worry about. There's still some commentary underneath stories on some social media. But my advice is the same thing I followed. When you're really in the goo and things are tough, people ask me, like, how do you take it when people are saying these things about you? And I said, what things? I would stop reading it, and I wouldn't even know about it. You wouldn't really know about it if you don't read it and if you don't engage, right? There's certain things you might want to, fight back on. But
That's hard.
It's hard. But the best thing to do is, if people are being unreasonable, is to let them go, because it doesn't happen. If you don't read it, if you don't get engaged, if you don't get involved, then to a point.
I learned that a long time ago, sitting around that council table. I just stopped reading the comments because,
especially the ones with no names on them.
Well, it's funny. When we first got in 2003, the Bay Today was providing an ability for people to comment, but they didn't have to provide their real name. And who was the reporter there what was his name? Phil Novak.
Phil Novak, yeah.
And he liked to stir it up. And some of the things that were said, if you recall, so the mayor, Mayor Vic at the time, our MPP now, he was the mayor. The first councillor was Peter Chirico, and the second councillor was Dave Mendicino. So he had 3 Italians, 1, 2, 3. And the comments that were posted back in the day about our families in Pittsburgh and mafia and mob connections and these Italians, what they call, like, it was
very racist.
It doesn't seem like that long ago. It is 20 years, but you can't speak like that today. Right. So it's amazing how things have evolved. And I learned a long time ago to ignore them. And if there was ever anything that I needed my attention, I did have someone that checked comments on a regular basis to see if there was something there that needed attention. So to your point, I think sometimes you do need to push back.
If it doesn't have a name, don't pay attention, because that's just somebody getting away with saying something that they don't have a right to say, as far as I'm concerned. If your name's not attached. Yeah. Anyways, this is great. Looks like it's going to be a hell of a good time. I'm looking forward to partying in 2025, 100th anniversary for the city of North Bay. Everything's gearing up for it.
We'll try and party like it's 1999, but that was a number of years ago, so I don't know. We can try, though, right?
Hey, well, let's party like it was 1925. Yeah. They knew how to party.
Right? Did they ever know how to party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we have prohibition back then? No, that was the Americans that had prohibition.
Well, we had a lot of communities that had prohibition. Like there was Aurelia was actually a dry town, right?
Aurelia was?
Yeah. You had to go to the Narrows bar in Atherley for a long time, right? Yeah, we had restrictions where people couldn't. Pretty heavy. Yeah, I think we had prohibition. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, not this year though.
Hey, no, you don't need booze to party. You have pot now.
I'm going, what? Oh, yes.
Well, if you really want to party like it's 1999, you might have to do both of them.
Yeah.
Anyways, you don't need drugs at a party. I'm told you have a good time without them.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dave Mendicino.
Yeah.
Clearing up things. I think he cleared up things, or did he make it foggier? I'm not sure.
I'm looking forward to when he has his own podcast.
Yeah.
We need to take in some
We
other, I
need to
guess.
get Dave his own podcast for sure. Looking forward to, speaking of 100th anniversaries, RCAF is celebrating its 100th anniversary April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a special coming up. We talked to members of the 22 Wing about what's happening for their 100th anniversary. There's a number of things that are happening in 2024 before the city of North Bay has their 2025. So that means that RCF probably wasn't here. I wonder, okay, that's what I want to ask. I want to find out were they here before the city was formed, this base?
No, the RCEF was formed before.
So it wouldn't be the base. So it's just the organ. Okay.
Yeah, it came out of the First World War, and then
Did we have planes?
The technology.
We hardly have any planes now. Planes would we have had back then, 100 years ago?
That's why we're following the RCAF, which is the Royal Canadian Air Force, right? So, yeah.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to that interview, and I hope everybody tunes in on April 1st. And then we'll have flag raising ceremonies. There's a number of special events.
The flag raising actually happened in the city the morning of this podcast. So the people will see that coverage in Beta Day and some the other local media.
Perfect.
I just want to remind our viewers, if it really helps us, if you subscribe, like, and share, and actually put a comment under, because that helps our algorithm. It spreads us further, and then we have a little bit more heft. And we need more people to know about us, because the ones that do, they seem to like it, and they tell us to keep doing it. So please like, share, and comment. That helps us out.
Yeah. I'm Scott Clark.
And I'm Dave Dale. Have a good day.